Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Power Hour. Saturday night personal development. I'm Chris Peters. Green Maze is here, and Dan Sissick is here. We're going to listen to Napoleon Hill's The Sixth Sense, and we're going to get started right now.
Chapter 14, The Sixth Sense, the door to the Temple of Wisdom, the 13th step toward riches. The 13th principle is known as the Sixth Sense, through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. This principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles. The sixth sense is that portion of the subconscious mind which has been referred to as the creative imagination. It has also been referred to as the receiving set through which ideas, plans, and thoughts flash into the mind. The flashes are sometimes called hunches or inspirations. The sixth sense defies description. It cannot be described to a person who has not mastered the other principles of this philosophy, because such a person has no knowledge and no experience with which the sixth sense may be compared. Understanding of the sixth sense comes only by meditation through mind development from within. The sixth sense probably is the medium of contact between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence, and for this reason, it is a mixture of both the mental and the spiritual. It is believed to be the point at which the mind of man contacts the universal mind. After you have mastered the principles described in this book, you will be prepared to accept as truth a statement which may otherwise be incredible to you, namely, through the aid of the sixth sense, you will be warned of impending dangers in time to avoid them, and notified of opportunities in time to embrace them. There comes to your aid, and to do your bidding with the development of the sixth sense, a guardian angel who will open to you at all times the door to the temple of wisdom. Whether or not this is a statement of truth, you will never know, except by following the instructions described in the pages of this book, or some similar method of procedure. The author is not a believer in, nor an advocate of miracles, for the reason that he has enough knowledge of nature to understand that nature never deviates from her established laws. Some of her laws are so incomprehensible that they produce what appear to be miracles. The sixth sense comes as near to being a miracle as anything I have ever experienced, and it appears so only because I do not understand the method by which this principle is operated. This much the author knows, that there is a power, or a first cause, or an intelligence which permeates every atom of matter and embraces every unit of energy perceptible to man, that this infinite intelligence converts acorns into oak trees, causes water to flow downhill in response to the law of gravity, follows night with day and winter with summer, maintaining a proper place and relationship to the other. This intelligence may, through the principles of this philosophy, be induced to aid in transmuting desires into concrete or material form. The author has this knowledge because he has experimented with it and has experienced it. Step by step, through the preceding chapters, you have been led to this, the last principle. If you have mastered each of the preceding principles, you are now prepared to accept without being skeptical the stupendous claims made here. If you have not mastered the other principles, you must do so before you determine definitely whether or not the claims made in this chapter are fact or fiction. While I was pressing through the age of hero worship, I found myself trying to imitate those whom I most admired. Moreover, I discovered that the element of faith which I endeavored to imitate my idols gave me great capacity to do so quite successfully. I never entirely divested myself of this habit of hero worship, although I have passed the age commonly given over to such. My experience has taught me that the next best thing to being truly great is to emulate the great by feeling and action as nearly as possible. Long before I had ever written a line for publication or endeavored to deliver a speech in public, I followed the habit of reshaping my own character by trying to imitate the 9 men whose lives and life works have been most impressive to me. These 9 men were Emerson, Paine, Edison, Darwin, Lincoln, Burbank, Napoleon, Ford, and Carnegie. Every night over a long period of years, I held an imaginary council meeting with this group, whom I called my invisible counselors. The procedure was this. Just before going to sleep at night, I would shut my eyes and see in my imagination this group of men seated with me around my council table. Here I had not only an opportunity to sit among those whom I considered to be great, but I actually dominated the group by serving as the chairman. I had a very definite purpose in indulging my imagination through these nightly meetings, for my purpose was to rebuild my own character so it would represent a composite of the characters of my imaginary counselors. Realizing, as I did early in life, that I had to overcome the handicap of birth in an environment of ignorance and superstition, I deliberately assigned myself the task of voluntary rebirth through the method here described, building character through auto-suggestion. Being an earnest student of psychology, I knew, of course, that all men have become what they are because of their dominating thoughts and desires. I knew that every deeply seated desire has the effect of causing one to seek outward expression through which that desire may be transmuted into reality. I knew that self-suggestion is a powerful factor in building character, that it is, in fact, the sole principle through which character is builded. With this knowledge of the principles of mind operation, I was fairly well armed with the equipment needed in rebuilding my character. In these imaginary council meetings, I called on my cabinet members for the knowledge I wished each to contribute, addressing myself to each member in audible words as follows. Mr. Emerson, I desire to acquire from you the marvelous understanding of nature which distinguished your life. I ask that you make an impress upon my subconscious mind of whatever qualities you possessed, which enabled you to understand and adapt yourself to the laws of nature. I ask that you assist me in reaching and drawing upon whatever sources of knowledge are available to this end. Mr. Burbank, I request that you pass on to me the knowledge which enabled you to so harmonize the laws of nature that you caused the cactus to shed its thorns and become an edible food. Give me access to the knowledge which enabled you to make 2 blades of grass grow where one grew before, and helped you to blend the coloring of the flowers with more splendor and harmony, for you alone have successfully gilded the lily. Napoleon, I desire to acquire from you by emulation the marvelous ability you possessed to inspire men and to arouse them to greater and more determined spirit of action, also to acquire the spirit of enduring faith which enabled you to turn defeat into victory and to surmount staggering obstacles. Emperor of fate, king of chance, man of destiny, I salute you. Mr. Paine, I desire to acquire from you the freedom of thought and the courage and clarity with which to express convictions which so distinguished you. Mr. Darwin, I wish to acquire from you the marvelous patience and ability to study cause and effect without bias or prejudice, so exemplified by you in the field of natural science. Mr. Lincoln, I desire to build into my own character the keen sense of justice, the untiring spirit of patience, the sense of humor, the human understanding, and the tolerance which were your distinguishing characteristics. Mr. Carnegie, I am already indebted to you for my choice of a life work which has brought me great happiness and peace of mind. I wish to acquire a thorough understanding of the principles of organized effort, which you used so effectively in the building of a great industrial enterprise. Mr. Ford, you have been among the most helpful of the men who have supplied much of the material essential to my work. I wish to acquire your spirit of persistence, the determination, poise, and self-confidence which have enabled you to master poverty, organize, unify, and simplify human effort so I may help others to follow in your footsteps. Mr. Edison, I have seated you nearest to me at my right because of the personal cooperation you have given me during my research into the causes of success and failure. I wish to acquire from you the marvelous spirit of faith with which you have uncovered so many of nature's secrets, the spirit of unremitting toil with which you have so often wrested victory from defeat. My method of addressing the members of the imaginary cabinet would vary according to the traits of character in which I was, for the moment, most interested in acquiring. I studied the records of their lives with painstaking care. After some months of this nightly procedure, I was astounded by the discovery that these imaginary figures became apparently real. Each of these 9 men developed individual characteristics which surprised me. For example, Lincoln developed the habit of always being late, then walking around in solemn parade. When he came, He walked very slowly with his hands clasped behind him, and once in a while he would stop as he passed and rest his hands momentarily upon my shoulder. He always wore an expression of seriousness upon his face. Rarely did I see him smile. The cares of a sundered nation made him grave. That was not true of the others. Burbank and Paine often indulged in witty repartee, which seemed at times to shock the other members of the cabinet. One night Paine suggested that I prepare a lecture on the age of reason and deliver it from the pulpit of a church which I formerly attended. Many around the table laughed heartily at the suggestion. Not Napoleon. He drew his mouth down at the corners and groaned so loudly that all turned and looked at him with amazement. To him, the church was but a pawn of the state, not to be reformed, not to be used as a convenient inciter to mass activity by the people. On one occasion, Burbank was late. When he came, he was excited with enthusiasm and explained that he had been late because of an experiment he was making through which he hoped to be able to grow apples on any sort of tree. Paine chided him by reminding him that it was an apple which started all the trouble between man and woman. Darwin chuckled heartily as he suggested that Paine should watch out for little serpents when he went into the forest to gather apples, as they had the habit of growing into big snakes. Emerson observed, "No serpents, no apples," and Napoleon remarked, "No apples, no state." Lincoln developed the habit of always being the last one to leave the table after each meeting. On one occasion, he leaned across the end of the table, his arms folded, and remained in that position for many minutes. I made no attempt to disturb him. Finally, he lifted his head slowly, got up, and walked to the door, then turned around, came back, and laid his hand on my shoulder and said, "My boy, you will need much courage if you remain steadfast in carrying out your purpose in life. But remember, when difficulties overtake you, the common people have common sense. Adversity will develop it." One evening, Edison arrived ahead of all the others. He walked over and seated himself at my left, where Emerson was accustomed to sit, and said, "You are destined to witness the discovery of the secret of life. When the time comes, you will observe that life consists of great swarms of energy, or entities, each as intelligent as human beings think themselves to be. These units of life group together like hives of bees and remain together until they disintegrate through lack of harmony. These units have differences of opinion, the same as human beings, and often fight among themselves. These meetings which you are conducting will be very helpful to you. They will bring to your rescue some of the same units of life which serve the members of your cabinet during their lives. These units are eternal. They never die. Your own thoughts and desires serve as the magnet which attracts units of life from the great ocean of life out there. Only the friendly units are attracted, the ones which harmonize with the nature of your desires." The other members of cabinet began to enter the room. Edison got up and slowly walked around to his own seat. Edison was still living when this happened. It impressed me so greatly that I went to see him and told him about the experience. He smiled broadly and said, "Your dream was more a reality than you may imagine it to have been." He added no further explanation to his statement. These meetings became so realistic that I became fearful of their consequences and discontinued them for several months. The experiences were so uncanny, I was afraid if I continued them, I would lose sight of the fact that the meetings were purely experiences of my imagination. Some 6 months after I had discontinued the practice, I was awakened one night, or thought I was, when I saw Lincoln standing at my bedside. He said, "The world will soon need your services. It is about to undergo a period of chaos which will cause men and women to lose faith and become panic-stricken. Go ahead with your work and complete your philosophy. That is your mission in life. If you neglect it for any cause whatsoever, you will be reduced to a primal state and be so compelled to retrace the cycles through which you have passed during those thousands of years." I was unable to tell the following morning whether I had dreamed this or had actually been awake, and I have never since found out which it was. But I do know that the dream, if it were a dream, was so vivid in my mind the next day that I resumed my meetings the following night. At our next meeting, the members of my cabinet all filed into the room together and stood at their accustomed places at the council table, while Lincoln raised a glass and said, "Gentlemen, let us drink a toast to a friend who has returned to the fold. After that, I began to add new members to my cabinet until it now consists of more than 50. Among them, Christ, St. Paul, Galileo, Copernicus, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, Homer, Voltaire, Bruno, Spinoza, Drummond, Kant, Schopenhauer, Newton, Confucius, Albert Hubert, Bran, Ingersoll, Wilson, and William James. This is the first time that I have had the courage to mention this. Heretofore, I have remained quiet on the subject because I knew from my own attitude in connection with such matters that I would be misunderstood if I described my unusual experience. I have been emboldened now to reduce my experience to the printed page because I am now less concerned about what they say than I was in the years that have passed. One of the blessings of maturity is that it sometimes brings one greater courage to be truthful, regardless of what those who do not understand may think or say. Lest I be misunderstood, I wish here to state most emphatically that I still regard my cabinet meetings as being purely imaginary, but I feel entitled to suggest that while the members of my cabinet may be purely fictional and the meetings existent only in my own imagination, they have led me into glorious paths of adventure, rekindled an appreciation of true greatness, encouraged creative endeavor, and emboldened the expression of honest thought. Somewhere in the cell structure of the brain is located an organ which receives vibrations of thought, ordinarily called hunches. So far, science has not discovered where this organ of the sixth sense is located, but this is not important. The fact remains that human beings do receive accurate knowledge through sources other than the physical senses. Such knowledge generally is received when the mind is under the influence of extraordinary stimulation. Any emergency which arouses the emotions and causes the heart to beat more rapidly than normal may, and generally does, bring the sixth sense into action. Anyone who has experienced a near accident while driving knows that on such occasions, the sixth sense often comes to one's rescue and aids by split seconds in avoiding the accident. These facts are mentioned preliminary to a statement of fact which I shall now make, namely that during my meetings with the invisible counselors, I find my mind most receptive to ideas, thoughts, and knowledge which reach me through the sixth sense. I can truthfully say that I owe entirely to my invisible counselors full credit for such ideas, facts, or knowledge I received through inspiration. On scores of occasions when I have faced emergencies, some of them so grave that my life was in jeopardy, I have been miraculously guided past these difficulties through the influence of my invisible counselors. My original purpose in conducting council meetings with imaginary beings was solely that of impressing my own subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion with certain characteristics which I desired to acquire. In more recent years, my experimentation has taken on an entirely different trend. I now go to my imaginary counselors with every difficult problem which confronts me and my clients. The results are often astonishing, although I do not depend entirely on this form of counsel. You, of course, have recognized that this chapter covers a subject with which a majority of people are not familiar. The sixth sense is a subject that will be of great interest and benefit to the person whose aim is to accumulate vast wealth, but it need not claim the attention of those whose desires are more modest. Henry Ford undoubtedly understands and makes practical use of the sixth sense. His vast business and financial operations make it necessary for him to understand and use this principle. The late Thomas A. Edison understood and used the sixth sense in connection with the development of inventions, especially those involving basic patents, in connection with which he had no human experience and no accumulated knowledge to guide him, as was the case while he was working on the talking machine and the moving picture machine. Nearly all great leaders such as Napoleon, Bismarck, Joan of Arc, Christ, Buddha, Confucius, and Mohammed understood and probably made use of the sixth sense almost continuously. The major portion of their greatness consisted of their knowledge of this principle. The sixth sense is not something that one can take off and put on at will. Ability to use this great power comes slowly through application of the other principles outlined in this book. Seldom does any individual come into workable knowledge of the sixth sense before the age of 40. More often, The knowledge is not available until one is well past 50, and this for the reason that the spiritual forces with which the sixth sense is so closely related do not mature and become usable except through years of meditation, self-examination, and serious thought. No matter who you are or what may have been your purpose in reading this book, you can profit by it without understanding the principle described in this chapter. This is especially true if your major purpose is that of accumulation of money or other material things. The chapter on the sixth sense was included because the book is designed for the purpose of presenting a complete philosophy by which individuals may unerringly guide themselves in attaining whatever they ask of life. The starting point of all achievement is desire. The finishing point is that brand of knowledge which leads to understanding, understanding of self, understanding of others, understanding of the laws of nature, recognition, and understanding of happiness. This sort of understanding comes in its fullness only through familiarity with and use of the principle of the sixth sense. Hence, that principle had to be included as part of this philosophy for the benefit of those who demand more than money. Having read the chapter, you must have observed that while reading it, you were lifted to a high level of mental stimulation. Splendid. Come back to this again a month from now, read it once more, and observe that your mind will soar to a still higher level of stimulation. Repeat this experience from time to time, giving no concern as to how much or how little you learn at the time, and eventually you will find yourself in possession of a power that will enable you to throw off discouragement, master fear, overcome procrastination, and draw freely upon your imagination. Then you will have felt the touch of that unknown something which has been the moving spirit of every truly great thinker, leader, artist, musician, writer, statesman. Then you will be in position to transmute your desires into their physical or financial counterpart as easily as you may lie down and quit at the first sign of opposition. Faith versus fear. Previous chapters have described how to develop faith through autosuggestion, desire, and the subconscious. The next chapter presents detailed instructions for the mastery of fear. Here will be found a full description of the 6 fears which are the cause of all discouragement, timidity, procrastination, indifference, indecision, and the lack of ambition, self-reliance, initiative, self-control, and enthusiasm. Search yourself carefully as you study these 6 enemies, as they may exist only in your subconscious mind, where their presence will be hard to detect. Remember, too, as you analyze the 6 ghosts of fear, that they are nothing but ghosts because they exist only in one's mind. Remember also that ghosts, creations of uncontrolled imagination, have caused most of the damage people have done to their own minds. Therefore, ghosts can be as dangerous as if they lived and walked on the earth in physical bodies. The ghost of the fear of poverty, which seized the minds of millions of people in 1929, was so real that it caused the worst business depression this country has ever known. Moreover, this particular ghost still frightens some of us out of our wits. Chapter 14.
All right. I'm here. What's up, guys? Muted. You're both muted.
I'm here, sorry.
Okay. Just give me a second. I'm going to change my speakers back to my headset. All right, Dan.
Oh, wow. The whole thing on his counsel and everything and stuff, how vivid and how real it got, because I would love to do something like that and get into with people I would like to, pull in and stuff. But I haven't really ever taken the time to try it.
Yep. It's for me. It's really, for me. It's about I do that as well, but I have a different way of doing it. Like I think about Kareem. I think about Isaac. I think about everyone on our mastermind. I think about Sean, and I think about what we're doing. And I think about the way the the characteristics of each and every one of you that I want to adopt, that I want to adapt, and that I want to apply to my life. That includes the stuff I listen to, like Napoleon Hill, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor, Earl Nightingale, Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk. I can keep naming people. Stephen R. Covey, reading his stuff. It all contributes.
Right.
And I think that as long as you're really, really focused, you know, the counsel's in your head. I think what he's really referring to is habits that he's created, and that he's adapting the habits of these people that he admires, and that he's communicating with them by almost like he's emulating them. And I think that that's really cool, and that's pretty much what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to emulate myself after people I admire. I mean, not emulate them as in be just like them, but to follow what their teachings and stuff like that.
But how do you account for how he said when he felt like he was actually living out these visions or thoughts or dreams or whatever, and it seemed real? To me, it means that he was playing it out in his head.
Yep.
Just like when. So I think it goes more to, you know, it might start there, but then, like you say, carry that out and emulate what you pick up from that.
Yes.
But it's like any dream. You know, we all have had dreams at times where we've had a dream and it has felt so real we could have sworn, you know, that we were right there involved in it. You know, I've had a couple dreams where I thought I was drowning and it seemed very real.
Right.
I've had, you know, things like that. So I think the possibility is there. It's just learning how to, like he said, to control and work with that, our brain, in a capacity that most people don't realize that we have. I think we have that actual capacity to do it, because like they say, we only use roughly about 10% of our brain's power to, you know, that it can produce.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yep, that's cool. Very
and
cool.
that's something I want. That's something I'd like to cultivate.
Oh, yeah, me too. What about you, Kareem? What did you get out of that?
I think he makes a good distinction between, because you can get stuck in thought like I talk about a lot, but what you really need to look at the brain as is a multifaceted tool where it's not just a static object that says, okay, do this, go to bed, go to sleep, eat food, and then get up in the morning and follow into a routine. You can use the brain to create things like Rockstar, to make videos, to do what we're doing with Isaac. And when you can cultivate that, you just keep on making creative events, making creative things out of sometimes almost thin air, seemingly. And when you can start to do that and you get in that creative vibe with your brain, it kind of has a snowball effect, and you get to where we are now.
But my question also to throw out there, because I'm sure somebody's going to be thinking about this and have this question, is how come it seems easier for some people to, you know, take that part of what you were like just talking about to be able to produce those things, and others like me, I'm a more analytical mind, and I analyze things and analyze it to death, where it seems a little harder for me to get into that mode, unless I'm under certain, like with music or something like that. But even then, for me to, but that's in a certain manner. I still think the brain has a lot more power that we really don't understand yet, or fully comprehend that we can do.
Right.
It's almost kind of like within my family, a lot of us, will finish somebody else's sentence, or we'll it happens, especially between my mom and my sister-in-law. They're not even related except by marriage to my brother,
Yeah.
is her, but yet they've done that lots of times. So it's interesting to see that and know that that type of stuff out there exists and does happen. But how do people build that up, or how do they tune that in, or how and like say some people just have that natural ability and others don't. And that's
Right.
what I think the other part is, as he was talking about, learning to cultivate it, learning to build it up. It's kind of like a muscle. You build it
Yeah.
up to where you expand it and grow it and learn to harness that power, so to speak, and use it for what you want to use it for.
I agree. It's you got to keep doing it. You got to keep cultivating the habits you want. You got to keep working on the things that you want to bring into your life. And the mind has to be worked constantly. That's why I'm always studying stuff like this, because I'm motivated to keep learning, growing, and applying the knowledge to my life so that I can get what I want out of it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is the discipline that's involved. You got to have the discipline, man. That's what
Right. But how does one get even, how? That's the part I think people have problems with, is, trying to get started and
they
not
sorry, go
not
ahead.
not quit and getting started because they haven't that thing where you haven't developed it, so you need to keep working it. But a lot of people, they fall into that trap of they give up.
Well, they have to want it more than anything else. That's the thing. They have to want it.
Okay.
Burning desire is how it all starts. You got to have that before anything else.
Okay. I can give you that.
Makes sense. I mean, you got to want more out of life. And you got more. You got to want to help other people too. I think that's where burning desire comes from. To be more. It's like, yeah, you can work in a job, taking care of yourself, but you don't become wealthy that way. You've got to help other people to become wealthy. So I think it has to come from a burning desire, and also a desire to help lots of other people with your services as well.
Okay.
Inspire them to reach for the stars too. That's how I
Okay.
think you would get started. You'd have to make sure that that's what you want to do, and you have to want to help people.
All right. So, leading into this, so part of how to maybe work on that and get into that is by getting involved with, say, like rock stars, on the Tuesday thing or on the Saturday thing, where you
The power
can,
hour, yeah.
start connecting there.
Yep.
And working on things like that first, and then have it carry over into developing your mind to that other portion that you want to build and grow for, like your own personal imaginary cabinet, to seek and search out solutions and things like that.
I also think it begins in looking around your life and saying, I'm not happy. There has to be constructive discontent. There's got to be discontent. Because if there's discontent, then that means that you want change. So you have to want change. That is the very, very first thing I would say, is you have to want change.
Or it could be that you're happy. I could say it could be two ways. It could be that you're happy, but you want to achieve something more. You feel you can achieve.
Well,
something.
I didn't say discontent meant being depressed, Kareem. But yeah, I agree with you. I didn't mean to interrupt you. No, you are right. But what I mean is, by constructive discontent, is you look around and you're like, okay, I've accomplished this, and this, but there's more that I want to do. I'm still here to do more. I know I can do more for people. I know I can be more. So I think it comes with an awareness that you have to be open to. You got to be open to that awareness, first of all. And I don't know how to tell anybody watching this how to become aware of it. You just will. But you got to get out there and start taking action. You got to do something you've always wanted to do. That's what begins the process. You've got to do something you've always wanted to do, no matter what the fuck it is, no matter what you think's getting in your way, no matter what the fucking adversity is. You've got to do it, because that creates the habit of persistence and desire that starts to form the burning desire. And then after that, you can look at your life and go, okay, I'm taking action. Now, look back, what's working, what's not working. The bottom line is, get the fuck off your ass and do something you've always wanted to do. That's what starts it.
I like that.
I do too. And I'm going to throw this out because maybe for people that are looking at this later or have not been around or something, when you say those things, is that because of your personal experience and the things that
Yes.
you have gone through and what you and Kareem have
Yeah.
gone through and built?
Yes, absolutely. Of course, it's relative. So for anybody who can't relate, well, it's going to be hard for me to articulate that, because if you're happy with what you're doing now, fine. If you're happy with that 9 to 5, if you're happy with just getting by, if you're happy with just whatever, fine. Then this doesn't apply to you. But for people who are entrepreneurial, this applies to them. So that's where I'm kind of differentiating this. You got to want to serve your fellow man. And I will reiterate that. You've got to want to get off your ass and serve your fellow man. You got to want to see change in the world. You got to want to see change in the world. I think that was the biggest thing for Kareem and I, was like, we're young, and we got to we got to continue to, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Like, Dan, you may be gone before us. We may be gone before you. Who knows? But theoretically speaking, you're going to be gone before we are. Okay. At some point, you're going to pass on to wherever. I know. I'm just, it's
I'm
like,
giving you a hard time.
it's
I'm giving you a hard
mortality.
time.
I know, it's mortality, right? It's a reality. So you're going to be gone to whatever next plane of existence you're going to whatever you want to inhabit. That's how I think of death. So we're going to, the young people have to be responsible to facilitate change. Not saying that the older people can either, but I think that the generations of now are more likely to listen to younger people than old, which is fucking stupid to me, because I love listening to older people. I'm like, holy shit, you knew something I didn't fucking know. Like, thank you. So I think that the generation gaps are a lot different. I think the appreciation is different now, and I wish it was the way it was, but it's not. Let's face it. I mean, not many people respect their elders or want to listen to their elders anymore. They rather listen to somebody who's young like them. But I mean, that's fine. Wherever you draw your inspiration from, get that inspiration, get off your ass, and stop making fucking excuses. Stop complaining and just get out there and execute. Because it's like Gary Vaynerchuk says, there's a 1 in 400 trillion chances of you becoming a human being. And he's like, I'm tired of reading inboxes and reading posts of people fucking complaining. What the fuck are you complaining about? Get out there and execute. Do everything you've always wanted to do. Everything that's happened has happened. Fucking do it. And he goes, and the only people that are listening to you complaining are your other loser friends who aren't doing jack shit. And the only ones who are judging you are your loser friends. And who gives a fuck about them? And that's exactly why I love Gary, because he tells it like it is, and I'm exactly the same fucking way. Just do it. Stop worrying about who's gonna who's gonna approve, who's gonna say this is okay, and who gives a fuck, man, because they're not the ones that are in charge of your life. You are in charge of your life, Dan. I am in charge of my life. Kareem's in charge of our life. And this mastermind is about showing people that they can fucking do it if they really want to do it. But they have to want to do it. They have to want more out of life.
Well, the other part of that too is, if you don't get out and do it, you don't reap the rewards either.
That's right.
Yes. It's like in like they say, go big or go,
Yep.
go,
Grant Cardone, go big or go home.
Yeah. So in
He's
that
awesome.
sense, and rightfully so, for those that go big are the ones that, get, the bigger rewards, and, I'm admitting I have complained and I, have gone through my stuff and things like that.
We all have.
But I also understand now I really have no room to complain, because as I'm working towards getting there and going toward, getting to that level, but I haven't gotten there yet. So therefore I haven't reaped the rewards I deserve yet,
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what this is about, helping understand. I think that's part of what he was also getting into and talking, the sixth sense, our brain. That's where a lot of the power comes in, is rightfully so within our own brain and within our own selves, and, tapping into something within ourselves that brings out that greater part.
Yeah.
And I think that's, kind of akin to what he was talking about with his, mastermind group, his imaginary mastermind group.
Where it really started for me was looking outside of myself. It was because I was so fucking worried about what was going on inside of me. But when I started to focus outside of myself, that's when that inspiration started to strike. Like fucking lightning bolts, they were hitting me. I'm like, hey, I'm 30 years old. Like shit, it's time to get my ass. It's time to figure out what the fuck I want to do. Because now that I'm 37 and I'm here, I'm like, okay, I have a plan of attack. I have a company. Let's fucking do this. Because when you hit 30, the days of you being a kid and you're like partying and wasting time it's done. And if it's not done by then, you're fucked. And I'm going to tell anybody that when you hit 30 and you don't fucking decide what you're going to do and you keep going, you're partying, wasting time with people who aren't productive, wasting time with people who don't best serve your who aren't ambitious, you're fucked. 30 is the maximum time. When you hit 30, it's the games are done. It's time to fucking get on the horse and figure out what you're going to do. Because I'm telling you, 7 years have fucking flown by, man. I'm 37 and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm almost 40. Like, and it hits you. It hits you.
It does.
And you're like, holy shit, like I've only got so much fucking time left. Like, let's fucking do this. I've got to do this. But that has to come naturally, and it may not take till you're 30, guys. That's fine. It may not fucking take that long. But when it hits, take action, because that's the universe telling you it's time. Stop waiting. Stop wasting time with people, on your weekends, drinking yourself silly. Stop. You don't have an infinite amount of time, guys. You only have so many years. Make them fucking count. And don't worry about haters, because Kareem and I have got trolls on YouTube. They're fucking made mockery video of us. We don't give a shit. That can't stop you. If haters and naysayers, if they have that much of an opinion on you, then you're never going to make it. Don't let them bother you, guys. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks but yourself. And only have people in your life that are fucking supportive. Go ahead, Dan. We love you.
Well, I was going to say
I wanted to drive that home.
I know, I got you. But I also want to make a point out. But for people who may come a little later in life, because some of us,
yes.
I wasn't out partying, but I didn't really get into some things until I got a little bit older.
Man, you were working. I mean, you were being productive or going to school. I know you've done a lot, man. So I'm talking to party kids, but go ahead. Yeah.
But there are some people out there that, they have transitioned, they have families, they have, things and stuff. But they haven't really moved any farther either.
Yeah, I know. It's tough.
We got to remember to, look at them that, at some point in time, they might start to figure it out and say, by the way, there's got to be more. I can, don't let that stop you either,
Right, yes,
because
I agree.
Age also shouldn't stop you either, no matter how old you are. Or,
I agree.
It doesn't matter really when you start, just start.
Well, what I was really, your point is amazing, and I agree. But what I was really getting at is the epiphany when you fucking hit 30 and you look around your life and you're like, I haven't done anything I've really wanted to fucking do, and that's what happened to me. I hit 30 and I'm like, okay, I've been banging women, I've been drinking, I've been smoking copious amounts of marijuana. I've been depressed, I've had anxiety, I've been misanthropic and bitter and dark, and I've lost things. Fuck this. This isn't working anymore. And that's what started the shift. And I met Kareem 2 years later, and here we are. And I'm a much more positive person now. I'm a happier person. I have a girlfriend. You saw her on the Mastermind Tuesday, Dan. Like, my life, it's coming together, and I'm fucking happy. Because I have someone to care about. I have a business. I have friends. I have you guys. I have it's good. Life is good. I'm actually fucking happy. And that's not something I can say easily because I've struggled with depression for a lot of my life. So, for someone like me to come from the shit I went through to get here is living proof that you can fucking do it. Just get out there and fucking do it, guys. No excuses.
I mean, I would even say I would even say, like, people have, like, I think back, like, okay, well, if I was in college, could I have done this? Could I have, dropped out and left? But so, like, no, if I do that, that'd be bad. And there's good and bad things to it. I'm actually happy I graduated, but there's other things I wish I would have done. I look at, I had the chance to, actually, me and a guy at work had a chance to buy, tons of Bitcoin, and I didn't, and I could have been like, I couldn't have guessed if he's 60,000 now. Or like, I remember talking to Sean one day, and he seemed a little upset, and I'm like, "What's wrong, Sean?" He's like, "I could have been a multimillionaire, or I was hoping to be a multimillionaire by now." So what I would say is, don't focus so much on the regret of what you didn't do, and see what can you do right now in your present situation, and then you'll get good at that.
Yeah, but what I agree. Go ahead. Sorry. Go. I'm just
because
when in my head so fast.
You remember when we were making our first videos? Like, we were making.
Oh yeah, I do. It was fucking.
I have my old, phone. I was making videos that, people were like, "Hey, Kareem, I really liked what you said. It was really good." It was my Empower Network friends at the time. I hadn't even met Chris. And they were saying, "Hey, that's really good." And I'm like, "Yeah, but the quality's terrible."
Yeah.
Is that really okay? And they're like, yeah, don't. It was good what you said. And I said, "Are you sure?" And here's the funny thing. People were saying they really liked what I was saying, and I was like 21, 22 at the time. I'm like, "All right, yeah, I'm making these videos." I couldn't have guessed, like, years later I'd have a video production company, because I was barely able to make videos with my smartphone. And then all of a sudden, I'm making videos for people on different websites, and then they're paying me, and then I have a company which is centered around video marketing. I couldn't have guessed that. It was all through happenstance. Literally, it was literally.
No, it really wasn't happenstance. It was the fact that ultimately, from something that you were doing at that point in time, but then you really kind of took notice of it, and you realized that you liked doing it, and you found interest, and then you started to apply that interest, and you liked it, and therefore you built something around, something that you could pour that energy into and focus into, going back to what Chris was saying. And you started just doing it and building on that and going from there, not worrying about, how it was all gonna come about. But you guys started out with the game plan, you and Chris, of let's do this, let's try that, let's do, and then by doing that, then it led into meeting the people you've met that gave you the help you needed to focus in and narrow in.
Yep.
And all that. So I don't think it was
Sean made all the
happenstance.
difference. No, none of it was. No, none of it was.
I don't think. Yeah, I think it was a foretelling maybe of where you were headed that you hadn't realized yet until you got a little older and got more involved in things and started putting two and two together.
See, this is why you guys need to listen to your elders. Are you hearing Dan? He knows what he's talking about. But yes. Yeah. No, that's entirely true. That's what started it all for us, for doing the Rockstar Entrepreneurial Starters and the Power Hour, was just, having that foretelling when I was younger and going, fuck, I'm 30 years old. Like, Jesus Christ, it's time to get on the horse here and make something happen, make some changes and set some goals. So I'm really happy I've been doing that.
So sure. How much longer are we going?
We're going to wrap it up now, because I know you probably are hungry, and I got some stuff to do here.
Well, yeah, I know you guys always have stuff to do, so.
Yes, the life of an entrepreneur, we're always busy. So, all right, well, I want to thank Dan for being here tonight, and Kareem Mays for being on the Entrepreneur Power Hour Saturday night personal development, and I just want to wish you all a great night, and we will see you guys later.
Later.